All the things that have moved on, inflation, all those kind of things, that would have valued me at around 140 million, which would have been a bargain. Not. Hello, I'm Gary Lineker, and this is Box to Box. I've no idea what's in them, but I've got plenty of them to open. Hopefully there's nothing that's going to surprise me in a bad way, and it's all really positive. About to find out. If there's a decapitated head in there of one of the goalkeepers that I played against, that'd be quite good, wouldn't it? Here we go. It's a photo. Oh, there it is, one of my sons. Lionel Messi. Yeah, I describe myself as an admirer of Messi rather than a fan. I'm way too old to be like that, although obviously I would get very excited if he walked in the room now, or if he'd crept out the box. For me, the greatest player I've had the pleasure of watching has given me immense joy for 2 decades, and he just does things that ordinary mortals can't do. You know, I played at obviously the top level in football and played with some great players, and there were lots of great players like Cruyff and, you know, Zidane and Platini, and even to this day, you know, the greats, the two Ronaldos, Ronaldinho. I could go on forever. But then above them, there are 2 other players, and they're both Argentinian, they're both diminutive, they're both left-footed. One's obviously Diego Maradona and the other's Lionel Messi. He's just a joy to watch. Just every single game I watch that he plays, even on his quiet days, he'll do 3 or 4 things in one game that I don't think I would have done once in my whole career. Favourite goal of Messi's? How much has he scored again? There's quite a lot to choose from. He pretty much mimicked the Maradona goal from the game against England that I played in. Was it against Getafe? Possibly that one, but how many times have we seen him just cut in and hit the shots from outside the box? Even in the World Cup, the goal against was Mexico, wasn't it, where he got the instant touch and then bang. He's not only a scorer of a multitude of goals, he's scored a multitude of brilliant goals.
Is Messi still going to be the name in football in 30, 40 years?
I think it's really difficult to compare people from different generations, but different generations will have their own, you know, greats. Obviously, Pelé will always be remembered. I mean, he won 3 World Cups. He scored 2 goals in the final when he was 17. Diego Maradona, what he did, won the World Cup in '86, the things he did with Napoli, that he won the league for the first time there. Messi's kind of come, seen, conquered, won absolutely everything. I mean, people will debate them and argue about who's the best, but I think those are the 3 that generally will come out in most people's conversations. I think, to be honest though, Brazilian Ronaldo, without injuries, who knows what we'd have seen with him. Cristiano, absolute goal machine, a fantastic, wonderful footballer, but he doesn't do the magical things that Messi could do, especially after what he's done in the World Cup. You know, he's gone and he's kind of stopped all arguments in a way, really. My latter life. I really enjoy it. For me, it's been a fabulous way of staying involved in football.
Let's put the mic down, because it's not on.
Feels like I'm doing an interview. Put it down. We'll start again. No, I'll put it down. For me, going into the world of television has been amazing because it's kept me involved with football without having to be a coach or a manager, which was never interested in that at all. So I basically watch football for a living. That's quite enjoyable for me. I watch a lot of football, more than I would like to admit, really. Obviously, my job is watching Premier League football every Saturday. I've sometimes watched 4 or 5 games on Sundays. Might be a couple of Premier League games, then I'll watch Barcelona or Real Madrid or whoever if there's a big game in La Liga. German football, Italian football. So I do watch way too much football, really.
What's the most fun you've had covering a game?
I think I played in the most memorable game ever, which was the Hand of God game, because it had the best goal ever scored and the cheekiest goal ever scored. But I think this World Cup final, and I was there, which was great. It was just extraordinary. I mean, I'm not a fan of extra time. I think after 90 minutes in football now, I think it's ridiculous to ask them to play another half an hour with the amount of football they play. So let's just skip to the penalties. But I'm glad they didn't in the World Cup final. In fact, I'd probably make an exception for finals. The World Cup final was incredible, and the extra time was probably the greatest half an hour of football I think I've ever seen. It was completely nuts. And the fact that the whole final was built up as Messi versus Mbappe, and it just lived it out. And the two of them completely performed. And it ended up with, I think, the result most people wanted outside of France, because they'd won it 4 years ago, and I think a lot of us wanted to see Messi lift the World Cup. I think it was the greatest game I've ever seen. My most stressful experience watching football, when Leicester won the league. I mean, it shouldn't have been stressful, but it was just impossible. They weren't going to win the league. I knew they were never going to win the league. That's why I did a silly tweet about doing Match of the Day in my pants if they did, because I categorically knew there was zero chance. And we'd sit at home on a Sunday afternoon, they kept winning 1-0, 1-0, 1-0. But it was also incredibly difficult to watch, and the closer they got to the league title, the more terrifying it got, the thought of them actually not doing it. And when Hazard bent that one in, because Leicester weren't playing when they won the league, that was just magical.
Who do you have the most fun with on set?
Probably two personalities above all others, and I don't think it will surprise you when I say Micah Richards and Ian Wright. You know, they're just really massively engaging personalities, infectious enthusiasm for life and fun. And I think it's important to remember that football is entertainment, and when you're doing the television side of it, you have to try and entertain as well as educate or inform. All right, let's have a look. I know what this is. It's a football. The balls are so much better than when I played.
36 years ago, you scored a hat-trick, but you didn't get to keep the ball.
That's very true. I played in the Classico. I try not to mention it too often. It was the first one I played at the Nou Camp, and I scored 2 goals in the first 5 minutes, both very close range. And I had goosebumps on. The noise was incredible. 120,000 fans. It was about 5 minutes into the second half. I had one-on-one with the goalkeeper, I believe was Boyer. I dinked it over him, and when I saw it going in, it was just magical. The referee had the ball in his hands. I went up to him and asked him for the ball. He was going, ¿Qué? ¿Por qué? No. I went, I've scored 3 goals, and he just didn't get it. It wasn't a thing in Spain back then, so I never got it.
How much do you reckon you'd be worth now?
Well, somebody translated it the other day. They said if you take that into account and all the things that have moved on, inflation, all those kind of things, that would have valued me at around 140 million, which would have been a bargain. Not. My advice to any player going abroad is, first and foremost, to immerse yourself in the culture and definitely learn the language as well as you possibly can. In Barcelona, I went to school 3 times a week, and it helps. The fans appreciate it, your teammates appreciate it. It just makes you feel happy if you can converse with everybody. So it makes sense. If you're happy off the field, you'll be happier on it. Jude Bellingham, he's been playing abroad now for a while. He's incredibly mature young man, captain Dortmund, who's in his teens, which is remarkable. As long as nothing goes drastically wrong in terms of injury or something, he's going to be like a superstar. Boom. What have we got here? Well, that's just an interesting shirt.
How are you received by the people of Barcelona when you go back?
Well, those that are old enough to remember me, really well actually, to be honest. I've always had a real affinity with the fans. When I was there, they were fiercely loyal, you know, and incredibly supportive. They're about to revamp the Nou Camp, and it needs it. It's got a bit tired, it's got a bit old, but it's still a special place to play. It's, you know, it's a cathedral of football. The atmosphere is incredible. I remember the first time I walked down. You go down these long steps, and on the right-hand side was like a little praying area, which the players generally crossed as they went by. I don't believe in that. Maybe I should have done. I scored more goals. I don't know, who knows. And from outside the ground, it doesn't look that enormous because the actual pitch level is another, well, I don't know, 20 yards or so lower. And then you come out, and it's like, I think Xavi's done a brilliant job. I mean, he's won the league title. Considering all the, you know, the troubles that they've had, certainly financially, over the last few years, I think you have to give him a lot of credit. They'd been very flimsy defensively in the previous years, so he's brought in that kind of discipline. Also, he has coincided with a time where they have got some exceptionally talented young men, Pedri, Gavi and Haaland. They've got some really good players, young players, which bodes well for the future.
Lucy Bronze and Kira Walsh out there at the moment. Have you spoken to them? Have you passed on these nuggets of information?
I haven't. I don't know them personally. I've had kind of little interchanges on Twitter, certainly with Lucy Bronze. It's great that they're over there playing for Barcelona. I'm still the only man, though, that has played for Barcelona since the Second World War. And that makes me happy. English man, I should add. I'm definitely not the only man. There's been a few men along, so it's so stupid. Ta-da! Ooh, a video. Remember those? And Italia 90. At least you didn't put in there. If you'd have told me when I was, growing up that I'd score 48 goals for England, I'd have said, you need help. Italia 90 was, in many ways, a kind of seminal moment for English football. I remember playing games for England in the late 80s with like 15, 16, 17,000 people at Wembley. The sport was in a bit of trouble. But I think what happened in Italia 90 got different people interested in football as well, not just perhaps the working class, but the middle class. It was that first time really where, you wouldn't see a car on the road. People tell me I was actually busy, I was over there, but it was different, and when we came back, it was like, wow, what's happened? And then we had the Taylor report and they improved the grounds, then we had the Premier League starting, but I think Italia 90 was kind of seriously important in terms of that progression.
Why is it so hard for the men's team to have taken that final step?
Simple. It's really, really hard to win a World Cup. And you get one go every 4 years. If it was like the Champions League, you played it every year, we'd have won one or two more by now, but it's not. I think we went through a period recently where we weren't realistic contenders anyway, where we weren't producing players, but that's now changed. We're now being competitive in tournaments. And if you continue to be competitive, at some point you might get the breaks. It could have been in Qatar. England played really well in that World Cup. We were the better team against France, but they had the breaks. So it's just hard to win a World Cup. Went fairly close on the two occasions I played, and we went very close in Italia 90.
The man on the front of that video cassette, how would he have got on in today's game?
I think he'd have been exactly the same. He'd been absolutely brilliant and completely mad. Still speak together every now and again, and I love him to bits. He's so unique, so unique. I remember playing Holland in this World Cup. The second game was against Holland. It was 0-0, and he was like this young kid breaking into the team, and he was just brilliant. He was just unbelievably good. And most of the game he was running around pulling Rude Gullet's dreadlocks, like pulling them down. Honestly, it was just, Rude was going, what are you doing? It was so funny. That was Box to Box with me, Gary Lineker. I really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure you subscribe, like and comment in any order you want.